In this week's edition of the NNY Capitol Report, we catch up with State Senator Mark Walczyk of Sackets Harbor to get the latest on budget negotiations, now over 6 weeks late, the state of legislative efforts as session draws towards its close, and a piece of legislation he was pushing earlier this week, killed by the Democrats who run the chamber.
This budget deadline is the same every year. It's written into the New York State Constitution. There's absolutely no reason for us not to follow the process and the timeline. New Yorkers deserve an on-time and balanced budget in New York State. So this just shows one-party dysfunction in our state. You have the Senate that is controlled by Democrats, the Assembly that's controlled by Democrats, and a Democrat governor. And they can't get on the same page with major policy things. And as far as I know right now, haven't even really started talking about the actual thing, which is the numbers of the budget. How much are we going to tax people? Where are we going to provide relief? What services are we going to pay for? What are the priorities in spending in New York State's budget?
According to the terms of a general agreement the governor laid out over a week ago, lawmakers have agreed to spend about $268 billion, meaning New York will spend about $13,000 per person. Money still isn't quite settled yet, though, and even after the agreement announced last week, it appears there could be some changes in spending totals. The lack of transparency in the budgeting process this year, where lawmakers and others don't know what's being negotiated behind closed doors, stands out this year, Walczyk said.
This process has always been kind of dark and shadowy. They say the 3 men in a room is now 2 ladies and a man in the room that are making all of the decisions, but this year especially dark as far as the public is concerned. Even when the governor, and she hasn't said much throughout the entire budget process, she proposed her budget back in January, 30-day amendments in February. We talked to her agency and department heads in budget hearings. That's part of the process. Joint conference committees met once to announce who the membership was and never again, anticipating that we would have an on-time budget, and then completely quiet. And even when the governor has stepped out, she did have one press conference to say, we have a deal, here's all of these things, and then you hear the other legislative leaders saying there's no deal on this budget whatsoever, and we haven't even started talking about the money yet. So yes, very concerning for me and for the process here in Albany, but very concerning for the people that need to hold this government to account. We want an on-time budget, we want a good budget, but you also want an open process so that we know what's in it. We know the governor is trying to jam a bunch of policy in it, but I'm also concerned about the massive spending and the taxation and additional fees and all of those things that they may be deciding in back rooms right now in Albany without any view from the legislature, without any view from the public or the media. Very concerning.
While budget talks continue behind the scenes, lawmakers in both chambers are trying to get some legislating done. Earlier this week, Senator Walczyk brought forward an amendment to a bill expanding automatic voter registration for Medicaid enrollees. His bill would have required voters show a valid voter ID when casting a vote, a way to catch potential voter fraud.
Yeah, I brought it forward as a hostile amendment on another election bill that dealt with citizenship requirements, and the bill that we were debating that day actually would make it more easily available for non-citizens and non-New Yorkers to accidentally get registered to vote by requiring a number of different agencies and departments in New York State to actually register people to vote rather than the Board of Elections. Very concerning policy. So I brought this forward as an amendment on that. It was shot down on the Senate floor on partisan lines, not surprisingly. But people want to see, and this is why I brought it forward, people want to have faith that their vote is going to count. They want it to be easy to register to vote. They want it to be easy to vote. They also want to make sure that someone who shouldn't be voting or wants to commit fraud is not able to do that. So it needs to be easy, but it also needs to be secure.
As session comes towards its close, Walczyk said there are a few other issues he's also focused on in the last days.
Still working very hard on policy to try and reduce people's energy bills. It actually looks like the governor has started to pay attention to some of the ideas that we've brought forward. So good news a little bit maybe there, depending on what shakes out, but a lot more work to do on actually bringing down energy prices in the state of New York. So I will continue to drive at that issue.
From the Watertown Daily Times Albany Bureau, I'm Alex Galt.